Hello, my name is Durham Hunt. I'm one of the library assistants that work in the South Carolina room down at the Hughes Main branch of the library downtown. And we have a great collection of local history and genealogical materials for you to look at in the South Carolina room. We're open anytime that the library is open. We don't have separate hours. Well, I'd like to welcome you to the 1950s Greenville. This presentation is coinciding with the release of the 1950s federal census of the entire United States, including South Carolina and Greenville County and the city of Greenville. So we're looking forward to helping folks take a look at their ancestors and the folks who were living during the 1950s in South Carolina, Greenville County, and Greenville. So tell you what, let's take off. In 1950, the city of Greenville, just the city, there were 58,161 people living in the city. In the county, there was 168,152 people living. Now, by 1960, at the end of the decade, there were 66,188 people living in the city, 209,776. So the population had increased. And the downtown area of Greenville did not change a lot during the 1950s. There were a few exceptions that I may point out. So let's get started. Now, Greenville started as it was like a resort community for the people from the Low Country. That's what put the little village of Greenville on the map. And folks from the Low Country would come up here to avoid the heat, humidity, and the diseases that were prevalent in the Low Country of South Carolina. So this was a really beautiful place, and it was healthier than the coast of South Carolina. Greenville was built right on the Reedy River, the falls of the Reedy River, and the people soon found that the water power was great for grist mills and for industry to develop along the site of the Reedy River. So mills began to develop after the Civil War, especially in 1870s. The Camperdown cotton mill was built right on the falls of the Reedy. And then the Huguenot mill just upstream, Mills Mill, soon in the late 1800s. So Greenville became a textile center. And there were 43 mills in the Greenville County during the 50s. And so textiles were king here in Greenville. And in the early, not just after 1900, Greenville became known as the textile center of the South. For all these mills, as I mentioned, I don't have time to go through all of them, but Dunning and Poe Mill, Woodside Mill. And right after Woodside, it hadn't been open but about 10 years, they expanded it. By the 50s, Greenville is continuing to grow and the textile industries are continuing to grow. And by the late 50s, we were not only textile center of the South, we were textile center of the world. Here's a nice modern mill that was built out on Whitehorse Road during the 1950s. And so the architecture had changed from the tall brick buildings to the low, pretty much one-story buildings. Now, all these folks were employed by the textile mills, the population of Greenville County. The textile industry was the largest employer in Greenville County. You know what I'm talking about? We'll take a trip around. Where could we meet? How about Furman University? You know, it's up on University Ridge, which is just across the Reedy River from downtown Greenville. It looks out over the city of Greenville. we'll meet at the old main building where they have the bell tower. That bell tower has been there since 1854. In 1851, Furman University moved to Greenville, and they have been a great asset to the city ever since then. It's a prominent building, and so it's easy to spot. So everybody head toward the bell tower, and it's right on the center of the campus of Furman. You know, as I said, it's been a vibrant community of students, and you'll see them all over town in the 1950s. They're a prominent addition to our population. Well, I tell you what, why don't we get our things together and we'll take a drive around. We've got to get a vehicle. My dad, why, he's a city fireman for Greenville, and he's a good driver. He drives a fire truck, so let's let him drive. How about, I'll see if we can get a Cadillac. Wow. You know, Collins Motor Company is right down there below Furman on Augusta Road, just before you get to Main Street. And so let's see if we can, I could get one from yeah. Why, one of the students at Furman has a convertible Cadillac. So I think pretty much, I don't know if everybody can pile in, but we'll try. And we'll take off. You know, somebody who is seen in Cadillacs quite often is the president during most of the 50s, Ike Eisenhower. And so he's well known for touring around in Cadillacs. He didn't make it to Greenville during the 50s, but he did visit Charlotte in the late 50s. Okay, from Bell Tower, we can see out, and we're going to head to the downtown section of Greenville. We'll start our little tour around down there. Oh, you know what? As we come down and turn right on Augusta, headed toward Main, ooh, I can smell, it smells great. It's that Clausen's Bakery. Oh, boy, is that. They have all kinds of baked goods there, and the local students and population love to go buy items from Clausen's Bakery. You know, one thing that's tough about the bakery being located just below Greenville High is, whoa, in the summer when the windows are open, you can smell those cakes and bread cooking. It's tough to study up there. Greenville High is called the $1 Million High School. This present day building opened in 1938. And so it's the largest school in the district. And you might see some of the students hanging around on their lunch breaks out on campus. Of course, they're known as the Greenville High Red Raiders, and red and white is their colors, which reminds me of the big games that happen every Thanksgiving. It's the largest game in the state of South Carolina, and this includes the college games as well, like Clemson and Carolina. They have the game down at Serene Stadium, and it's between Greenville High and Parker High School. And man, they pack it out. As I believe I mentioned, it's the largest game in the state. And they have it especially on Thanksgiving. You know, the Parker High folks say that every Thanksgiving they have maters, taters, and Raiders. I don't know that the Red Raiders would agree with that. Parker High School's it sits on Parker Road between Woodside Mill and Monaghan Mill. And this is where most of the textile community, the children of the textile workers, go to school. It's a beautiful building. The cornerstone was laid in 1921. And so they've got quite a student body up there, but not nearly as large as Greenville High School. So they're the underdogs in the football game. Oh, and I want to mention another large high school in town is the Black High School, Sterling High School. It sits over not too far at all from St. Francis Hospital. It's in that area. And so they've got a fantastic band. Love to see them at the Christmas parades. They put on quite a show. They're well known all over for the quality of their band and the marching. Also, their football teams have been really good. And in 1951, they were the state champions of the black schools in South Carolina. There was an ad in the paper, Sterling must win the last game against Mather Academy. And they did, 46-6. So they were state champions. You know, there's another championship team not too far. It's a bit west, a few miles, Clemson College, the agricultural and military school of South Carolina. And they won the 1951 Orange Bowl. They beat Miami 15-14 in a real tight one. So there are a lot of Clemson fans in this area. Although at this time in the 50s, Greenville leans toward Furman. Okay, let's keep going down Augusta Road. We're headed towards town, and we're coming up on one of the trouble spots for traffic. They've been running these articles in the newspaper about, traffic problems in Greenville, and where Augusta hits Main Street, Pendleton, and Rivers comes in. It's a tough area. A lot of accidents, and we better be careful as we turn on to Main and start heading up toward the very downtown of Greenville. I didn't see too much traffic today, but sometimes during special events and holidays, Christmas, it can be really crowded here on Main Street, some real traffic jams. Fortunately, they've been constructing here in the late 50s a bridge for Church Street, and it's going to be a way to bypass downtown and keep you out of that traffic. And so it's supposed to be finished by 1960. Well, we're back over on Main, and so we'll keep going. Oh, I see the clock tower right up there on top of the News Piedmont building. That's a landmark. You can tell what time it is all over downtown just by looking over there. Oh, you know what? We're just on the old Reedy River Bridge built in 1913. We're crossing the Reedy River downtown. And if we look back, why, there's the USO Center for the servicemen from Donaldson Air Force Base. And over on the right side, looking back, why, there's Mary's Record Shop. And that's a well-known place to go listen to the latest hits and to buy 45 so you can take home. You know, in the early 50s, there was a young country star who's unfortunately passed away now, but Hank Williams he signed autographs there in Mary. So the young folks are well acquainted with Mary's Record Shop. Well, let's keep going up. We're going toward the News Piedmont building. Again, the traffic's picking up as we head up. You know, they're so proud of that clock tower, or the clock on top of the News Piedmont building, that it's on a postcard of Greenville. Oh, and it looks good today. Pretty day to drive around today. And, you know, right next to the News Piedmont building, well, there's the Main Street Pharmacy. It's a local hangout. It's a great place. If we had time, we might get a ice cream nut sundae, banana splits. Oh my, all kinds of good things, sandwiches too, inside the Main Street Pharmacy. Well, as we come into the government center of downtown, on the left, there's a building, unique architecture, Romanesque. Today it's the City Hall of Greenville, but it was built as the federal courthouse and post office. But it's been City Hall since 1937. And there it sits right on the corner, Broad and Main. You know, let's see, if we take a left real quick, why, just behind the City Hall, why, there's the fire department, the Greenville City Fire Department. And the fellows are shining their trucks up there. And, you know, right next door, just past those fire trucks, why, there's the police headquarters of the Greenville Police Department. They've got some Henry J cars that they use. They just got them in the late 40s. And so they're still out and about on the roads protecting us. Love those fire trucks. They're And the firemen are very proud of them and keep them shined up. You know, the police had to redirect traffic recently in the 50s because there was a fire right on Main Street, just up a block or so, and it was the Haverty's furniture store, and it was quite a fire. But fortunately, they pulled the fire trucks up and hooked up from the fire hydrants, and they were able to get the fire under control and keep it confined. So great work by the city of Greenville's fire department. It caused quite a crowd to gather to watch this fire. And there have been other fires in the downtown area. And so we're very fortunate to have the fire department and to keep the fires from spreading. We haven't had a really, really bad fire in any section of the city, but it's because of the firemen. Well, we're continuing up Main and passing the city hall, and we're coming up on the right. There's the Liberty Life building, and you know that building. It was it's 11 stories tall, and it was built in the 20s. And it's built right on the site of what they called the old Records building, which was an old courthouse for Greenville. And it was known for its architecture, and it was built in the 1820s. It was an early structure in the downtown. Some of the citizens tried to save it, but unfortunately it was torn down. And so the Liberty Life building was built there. At first it was called the Chamber of Commerce building. It was occupied by the Greenville Chamber of Commerce, but Liberty Life has bought it. And there's some of the workers coming out. They must be going on their lunch break. You know, one thing as the 50s have progressed, Liberty Life was outgrowing that building. So they built a new Liberty Life building, very modern, out at the intersection of Pleasantburg Highway and Wade Hampton Highway. It's close to where Bob Jones is located. And so it took a few years for it to be constructed, but now that beautiful new modern building is out there. They had an open house right after it opened. And so people could go in and see all the modern facilities that are available at Liberty Life. Well, we better keep going up our main street here. So let's see, we pass right across from the Liberty Life is it was the old county courthouse built in 1917, and it's recently been replaced by another one over on Church Street. We'll see it in just a minute. The Poinsett Hotel is located right next to this building, and it's a very prominent hotel in Greenville. They called it the $1 Million Hotel, and it did cost over $1 million. It was built in 1924, open for business. It's a prominent hotel. It caters to the textile conventions that come every 2 years to Greenville. And so many of those people visiting will stay in the Poinsett. And originally, the radio station, WFBC, their studio was in the Poinsett Hotel downtown. Well, we'll keep going down, and right just past the Poinsett Hotel is one of the department stores, Belk's. It's a well-known fixture of downtown Greenville in the 50s. Why, notice you can get S&H green stamps there. That's great. It stretches your dollar, you might say. And sometimes they have special events like the big annual back to school party, and that's at the Harlem Theater, and it's for the Black children in Greenville. And so you can get free tickets for that at Belk's. The Harlem Theater's down on Hudson Street, not far from downtown. Well, as we continue up Main, we're coming up to Cress, and most people call it Cress's Five and Dime store. And they just, in the late 40s, they revamped the entrance to it. So it looks real spick and span these days. And there's a great picture of it. And as we come up in Dixie Sporting Goods and music companies right there too on the corner. One thing that people have notice if you're walking downtown in the 50s, they've installed these electronic lights that come on and tell you when not to walk and when to walk. So it makes it safer for pedestrians to when they're crossing the streets downtown. In this next block, as we keep going, why it was the Woodside building, 17 stories tall when it was constructed in 1920 and 21. It had a garden on the roof of the building, and it was a premier building. Now, it was the tallest building at 17 stories in North and South Carolina. And it's still going strong. Now it's called the SCN building because of that big sign, the bank sign up there. And so that most people call it the SCN building in the 50s. And man, if you go up to the top, it gives you a great view all the way. I think you can see Paris Mountain, the Otteray Hotel. You can see all over just by going up to the roof. You know, we're coming on up Main, and here's Washington Street looking out down Washington. Notice all these wires because we have trolleys downtown. And so they require these cables that go up and hook to the wires. And so they're electric vehicles. But now starting during the 50s, they're going away from this, and they're starting to have buses which run on gasoline and not electricity, so they can go anywhere. Sometimes they go out to Bob Jones and pick up folks, and it's a great ride. People really enjoy the buses. Now, let's see. We're up another block. I see, well, there's Myers Arnold looking back on over to the left, and that's one of the other big department stores. And then there's Ivy's, which is on up the street. Looks like it's a pretty busy day up this way, people walking and shopping. You know, Furman has a homecoming game every year, and they have a big parade right down Main Street. They have floats that the students make. They also, why the ROTC fellas, they like to march down Main. And this reminds me of in 50 and 51, there's the Korean War, which took place and was really a terrible experience for many people from South Carolina and for the troops over there. Furman also sometimes has a tank that they parade down Main Street during the homecoming parade. And I mentioned the Korean War. Harry Truman was president during the first few years of the 50s, and so he would have been president during that. But he did a good job. Well, here's some of the homecoming queens of Furman, and man, they have really come out to see these ladies. And so after the parade, they'll end up down at the at Serene Stadium for the big homecoming game. And there's some big crowds that come out to watch Furman since that's their home field. And I mentioned, you know, they share it. Fortunately, Greenville High can play on Furman's home field as well. And this is one of the premier sports stadiums in the state of South Carolina. Oh, wow, there's a tough tackle. They're having a good game today. We better keep going up the Main Street, see what we can see. Looking across, let's see, what do I see? We're getting up near the Otteray. Oh, why, there's the Fox Theater. You know, there are, let's see, how many theaters? I don't know if I can give you a number, but there's the Fox, the Center, the Paris, the Carolina. They're all on Main Street. There are two black theaters. One is on Spring Street, the Liberty Theater, and then over on Hudson, I may have mentioned, is the Harlem Theater. You know, what are people watching in the 50s? Why, Rear Window with Jimmy Stewart, Vertigo with Jimmy Stewart, a couple of Hitchcock thrillers. I like old Jimmy, and the Stalag 17 and the Bridge on the River Kwai. That's with William Holden. You know, a really creepy movie too is the Sunset Boulevard, whoa, with William Holden. That one's a creepy one. It was, I believe it came out in 1950. Another great Hitchcock movie that people enjoy is North by Northwest with Cary Grant. And Ben-Hur has been very popular. Well, that's with Charlton Heston. So there have been some great movies to see during the 50s. Oh, and there's one called Rebel Without a Cause with James Dean, and Giant, where James Dean's in it. You know, he was killed. So he was actually killed before his movies came out, if I remember correctly. Well, let's continue our drive up the street. You know, just across from the Fox Theater on the other side of the streets, the S&S Cafeteria. They've got some great food over there. If we had time, we'd stop for lunch. Well, we've been through all downtown, and looking back, I can see the SCN building. Hope you've enjoyed the drive through town. We've just come up on the Otteray Hotel. This hotel was built in 1913, and it caters again to the textile conventions that come every 2 years to Greenville. Notice Sears Roebuck at the in the late 40s, they moved from downtown Greenville, and we may get a chance to go by Sears Roebuck. It's just out of town. Otteray's great. Free parking, television, radio. My goodness, they've got that porch where you can sit out in rocking chairs and look down Main Street. You know, just past the Otteray is the Carolina Theater. I mentioned that it was one of the theaters downtown, and man, they pack them in sometimes. Why, she wore a yellow ribbon. That's a John Wayne movie. And you might see there's this young guy from Mississippi that's really popular these days, Elvis Presley. Why, he's had a couple of really big hit movies, but you know, by the end of the 50s, he got drafted. He's in the Army. What about that? And I mentioned too, there are also shows like the Clovers. Well, that's a dance show for the Black community. Now, there can be white spectators, but we are a segregated town. And so they split the audience, even though it's Black and white. The Clovers were the first group that did Love Potion number 9. Let's see at the Harlem Theater, David and Bathsheba are playing too. There's the Liberty Theater's on Spring Street, and it's been there for a number of years. And it not only shows movies, but they can have live acts there and plays. Well, we're going to turn left right here at the corner of College and Main, and we'll head out. Why, there's the college. It was the Greenville Women's College until recently, and it became part of Furman University. And so now the ladies are going to Furman. So it's men and women at Furman, and both these sites are part of Furman University. And you may see some Furman University buses because they bus them between those campuses. Yeah, if we kept going out a little ways, we'd see the General Hospital. That's the main hospital of Greenville. And my, has it grown over the years. It is a fine modern facility here in town. Well, let's go back and get on Main. And as we continue north, we're coming up on a new landmark in Greenville, which is the Calhoun Towers. Why, it's a very modern facility, and they say this is the type of thing to come here in Greenville. And notice why you can get $65 per month. That sounds pretty good to me. It has really been in the news. 14 stories high, 250 apartments. And so they also have office units. They've got a barber shop and a cafe down on the first floor. It's really pristine and very new. You know, if you look, if we were back over, say, on Church Street, it's visible all over town. And so the old Beatty House, which is being used as the Women's Club of Greenville, you can see it. It's on the other side of the Springwood Cemetery and from the farmers market. Why, if you look, see the big building over the left, and then on the right, why there is, oh, you know what? That's the, see it on the right there? Why, that is the Greenville Library. It went into the old Park School building when it became available. And so now it's the public library. It's a great site, wonderful place where you can just walk in, and it's very shady, a lot of trees in that area. And on the first floor is the main circulation. Then upstairs, why, there's a children's section as well. And so it sits right on Main. We're proud to have it. They moved in 1940. They have the latest cataloging equipment there in the library. And at the center desk on the main floor, why, that's the information desk, and they can answer all your questions, direct you to where you need to go. So that's our public library here in Greenville, South Carolina. And also, we recently got a new, the Greenville Public Library has always had bookmobiles, but we recently got a new one for the Black community. And so this is a great move forward for the Black communities in Greenville. And so they're very excited to have their own bookmobile. Now, we are a segregated town. And so the Black library is down near, well, it used to be in the Phyllis Wheatley Center, which is on McBee Avenue. They've moved it out recently into a separate building. But at this point in the 50s, it is still a segregated society. And so the Black community cannot come into the main library here in Greenville. Well, you know, if we keep going down Main Street, we're coming up on McPherson Park. It's a great place to take a walk around, a break from your work. And there's some ponds down there, which are very neat, and there's ducks around. And the kids love to stop down there because there's a train that goes around the park. And so that is a very popular ride with the local children. You know, there's another park not too far, and it's larger than City Park or McPherson. It's Cleveland Park. I don't know that we're going to have time to get over to it, but that's another place where you can go and relax downtown. As we keep going north on Main, we're coming up to another terrible traffic trouble spot, and that's the intersection of Main and Stone Avenue. So I'll have to be really careful. Another place where there are a good many accidents and traffic jams. We're going to head over to Church Street, and that's where the new county courthouse is. It's right on the corner of East North and Church. And so bigger building, more room, more office space. They've done a postcard on it. You know, it's diagonally across from Christ Episcopal Church, and that's where a lot of prominent Greenvillians are buried. Vardry McBee and is buried there, who was the father of Greenville. And, you know, he donated a lot of the land for churches, and the churches downtown, like the Buncombe Street Methodist Church and the First Baptist Church, First Presbyterian Church, they all got land from Vardry McBee. And St. Mary's Church on West Washington Street, he gave land for the Catholic Church. And, you know, right next door to the Catholic Church on West Washington Street is a textile hall. And in the early 50s, this is where, this was the largest venue. If you were going to have a show or basketball game, this was the place to go. And in 1917 was when the textile hall was built for the Southern Textile Exhibition. And it's packed out with all types of textile machinery when they have these shows, and people come from all over the world, not just the United States, to take a look at the latest machinery, textile looms, and all types of things. I see a poster. It's hard to read, but they also have shows like, wow, this is the Dell Vikings were here. Ray Charles um, and his orchestra too, and Bo Diddley. All kinds of great acts came to the Textile Hall. And another thing that happened here at the Textile Hall, and this was February 13th, 1954, Furman University was playing Newberry. And Furman had a player named Frank Selvey, who's from Kentucky. He was Mr. Basketball. And he came to Furman. He was the nation's leading scorer while he was here. And he scored 100 points that night in February of 1954 against Newberry College. He was the top scorer in the nation, and Furman was the top scoring basketball team in the nation. Why, there was a huge crowd there. Everybody seems to have been there, but I don't think all these about 60,000 inhabitants of Greenville could have quite fit in, but it was a big, big crowd. Well, you know what? In the late 50s, they had been talking about creating a better arena for all the sports and shows in Greenville. And so they started construction on Memorial Auditorium, and it was finished in late in 1958. So it's been in the late 50s where everybody goes to see basketball games and the circus, wrestling, ice shows, all kinds of things. Gosh, it'll seat 7,500 people. So it's a great addition to Greenville and the ability to have big shows here. Why, talking about big shows, how about Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain came with the Harlem Globetrotters? Man, that guy's tall. And it's a fantastic basketball arena. So this is where Furman plays their home games now. Also, all kinds of entertainment. Why, what was that guy's name? Dick Clark, the Caravan of Stars, Paul Anka, Lloyd Price, Annette Funicello, Dwayne Eddy. Oh man, it goes on and on. The Coasters, the Drifters, the Skyliners. What a show. Let's see, $2, $2.50, $3. Ooh. Well, now let's keep going around. We're going to swing over and go back, do a little backtracking, get on Stone Avenue, and then we'll go out by the super highway. That's Wade Hampton Boulevard. It goes all the way up into the northern states if you keep going, but it goes directly from here to Spartanburg, and it gets a lot of traffic. Oh, and right at the beginning on Stone, right where Wade Hampton starts, that's where Sears moved. I mentioned they had been on Main Street. So they're at 400 East Stone Avenue. So it's a nice modern building out there. A lot of folks go shop at Sears. You know, we're going to keep going out Wade Hampton. And as we do, we're going to notice some of these new motor court motels that have started where you can park your car, and they're out from the downtown Greenville, but they are starting to pop up around, you know, over on 291, where there's a new one, the Holiday Inn. Now it's very modern. If we had time, we'd go take a look at it. You know, as we keep going out Wade Hampton, while we're coming up on Bob Jones University, which moved here in 1947 from Cleveland, Tennessee. They needed more room. So they've moved out. It's pretty much in the country at this time. And there's the alumni building and Rhoda Haver Auditorium. They have some great operas and Shakespearean plays. And also they're known for their Museum of Religious Art, which is open here. And it's a premier museum, art museum, attracts people from all over the world. One thing they're working in, I believe it's 1958, they started building their gym. And so there's activity on the campus and they're expanding. Well, we better keep going. You know, on the backside on East North Street, not far from Bob Jones, is the old Gazaway Mansion built in the 1920s. Mr. and Mrs. Gazaway lived there, and then they sold it, actually split it up into apartments. But just recently, why some of the folks in Greenville have acquired the building, and it's become the Greenville Art Museum. Well, if we keep going out the Wade Hampton Boulevard, just on the left, why there's Woodlawn Memorial Park, Woodlawn Cemetery, and it just started in the late 40s. And, you know, Shoeless Joe Jackson, unfortunately, well-known baseball player from Greenville. He played for the Cleveland Indians and the White Sox of Chicago. Unfortunately, he was banned from baseball because of the Black Sox scandal, but he recently died in 1951 and he's buried out there. He was a common fixture around West Greenville and well-known in the textile community. And he was said to be the best natural hitter in all of baseball. You know, as I mentioned, Superhighway goes on out towards, and you can go to Greer and then to Spartanburg and then wherever you want to go up through North Carolina and continue on. We've just got time to go out a little ways and take a look at, you know, if we had time, we might go to the Chick Springs swimming pool. It's at the site of the old Chick Springs resort. Although the resort, the hotel is burned down, but we still have a nice swimming, public swimming pool out there. Well, let's turn around on Wade Hampton and we'll head back over and we're going to zigzag around a little bit and get on Rutherford Road and Poinsett Highway. And, you know, in 1954, WFBC moved their studio from the Poinsett Hotel out and to a modern building on Poinsett Highway. And it's not only radio, it's television these days. Well, you can, they have football games on, like the South Carolina Clemson game. And they're known as the Giant of Southern Skies. It's one of 3 TV stations that you can get here in Greenville, including WLOS TV out of Asheville and WESC out of Spartanburg. What about that? Hey, on Thanksgiving, they're giving away turkeys, 30 turkeys free. And this shows some of their broadcasters that they have there at WFBC. Now, 2 that are well known. Monty Dupuy has moved down, and he's a young fella, and he's known throughout the county, throughout the area, for his radio shows. And also there is a black DJ, Wilfred Walker's Variety Time, and he's on every day. And he also travels and with the Sterling High football team, and he broadcasts their games on WFBC. Well, there's, who is it? Sterling's playing Howard, and notice some of the TV ads, like Groucho Marx. Good gracious, you bet your life. It looks like the Lone Ranger's moving to Channel 7, WSPA TV. You know, speaking of the Lone Ranger, while there were 2, you could say 3 TV stars that came to the Meadowbrook Park, which is where the Greenville Spinners played until 1955. The Lone Ranger with Silver as horse, and also Lassie. Can you believe that? Why, who was that masked man at Meadowbrook Park? The Lone Ranger. You know, it'd be great if we had time to go to one of the drive-ins, like the Carolina Drive-In. Oh man, that's good eating. And the Rainbow Drive-In, as we go on out Poinsett Highway, a lot of the Furman students like to eat there, but there's Pete's. There are all these drive-ins in Greenville, and that's some good eating there. Let's go over to Paris Mountain, take a look at some of the reservoirs over there. You know, that's where Greenville got its drinking water for years. And there's, in the 30s, why the Civilian Conservation Corps built a bathhouse, and there's a lake that's used for swimming. And it is very popular in the summertime, let me tell you. Hey, if we keep going, we're going out to where Furman is moving in the late 50s. They start moving about 50 or 58, about 59. They are all moved. So they came from downtown. Wow, it cost $20 million. And it was done by Daniel Construction, built the new campus, the new buildings, and it's the local construction company. It's going to be really fancy out there. Well, they broke ground and started construction. It was advertised and the students were very excited to get out. Well, this was in the country. And they've recently opened the campus. And when the trees get a chance to grow, they say that it's going to be very pretty out there. Right now, it's a bit stark with the buildings just sort of sticking up from the surrounding landscape, but it's going to be nice. So the old bell tower downtown and the main building are going to be deserted. And we'll have to see if the Furman students are still make such an impact upon the downtown community. You know, we'll keep going up towards the mountains, and there's the old Haygood house. You know, it was a stagecoach stop, and also it's been a prominent structure, a landmark up as you're going toward the mountains. The Greenville Public Library bookmobiles have always stopped there. And if let's see, just I don't know, maybe 2 miles away is the Pleasant Ridge State Park. And they've been adding some buildings in 1954 and hoping to get it up and make it one of the premier state parks in the county. You know, let's keep going up and we'll head up the Gear Highway towards Caesar's Head. And keep your eyes open because, you know, there's still some moonshining going on up in these South Carolina mountains. So we'll be careful as we drive up. You know, Caesar's Head, it's been a prominent landmark in the northern part of Greenville County since the first settlers came. And we just got time to go over toward the where our water comes from today in the 50s, where the reservoir, and it's behind Table Rock. On the other side of of Table Rock, which is in Pickens County, again, the CCCs, the Civilian Conservation Corps, in the 30s built a state park, Table Rock State Park. But on the other side, on the Greenville side, well, that's where we get our drinking water. But it's a beautiful, beautiful landmark. The Cherokees were familiar with this because this was their land. You know, talking about lakes and things, we better get on back down to Greenville and let's go out. Well, there's all these swimming lakes, Woods Lake, and I mentioned the lake over at Chick Springs, Pine Grove Lake. They're very popular in the summertime to cool off. This one's Woods Lake's out near the municipal airport. And that is a fine airport, let me tell you. It was used to train glider pilots in World War II. And just recently, in the 50s, we've got an updated control tower. It's replaced the old one, which was out there. There's a nice picture of it. And so Eastern Airlines flies into Greenville, and you can fly all over the United States from Greenville. And they've really updated the facilities there. Now, something that happened in the late 50s was Jackie Robinson, who was the first Black man to play in professional Major League Baseball. He came to town. Now, he's been retired, but he came to speak at the NAACP meeting at Memorial Auditorium. He and his wife and friends flew into the Greenville airport, and they were in the flight waiting room of the airport. And so they were asked to leave. And so he refused to leave. And there was an article in the paper about him visiting here. And this caused a lot of attention on how things were handled in a segregated town such as Greenville was. And so things began to happen. There was a march from Springwood Baptist Church out to the Greenville municipal airport. And so in protest of how he was treated. And so looks like things are this happened the first day of January in 1960. So this is moving things in a new, better direction. Well, you know what? Let's swing out. We're going to have to really hurry, but we'll go out Augusta Road. Just past some of the houses on Augusta Road is the Lewis Shopping Plaza, which has been built. And it's one of the new shopping centers that are being built away from the downtown. There's a movie theater and a drugstore and restaurants and gas station, a post office, a bank, and there are also apartments right behind the shopping center. There's Lewis Village, so you can live there and then go down and all your needs are taken down there in the shopping area. There's a grocery store. Well, let's keep going out. Oh, and another area that's developing is the Pickwick, out where Malden Road goes off from Augusta Road. The Pickwick Pharmacy is open, and so people are living out in that direction because, did I hear airplane? Did you hear that? Why, it's one of those big transports that's flying out of Donaldson Air Force Base. Donaldson originally was the Greenville Army Air Base, built during World War II, and it trained bomber pilots. But these days, it's all huge transport planes, and it's called the airlift capital of the world. About that. And so there are planes constantly flying out of Donaldson all over the world. They were very instrumental in helping out in the Berlin airlift in the late 40s. About once a year, they have an open house out there where the locals can come and tour the facility and go through the planes, those huge transport planes. I was going to mention real quick, I mentioned how Greenville is almost exclusively textile as far as industry, but there's the textiles, I should say, plant that's out in Malden. And if we had time, we're not too far, but I don't think we're going to have time to go down there. But that's a new industry and employs a lot of people here in Greenville. And so hopefully we will get more and more industries coming in. You know what? It's getting dark. And so Greenville has a lot of drive-in theaters like the Belmont, the Cedar Lane Drive-In, the Augusta Road Drive-In, and we're not very far. Maybe we can catch a drive-in movie. Oh man, the Shaggy Dog. Walt Disney's Shaggy Dog is playing at Augusta. So we might have time, if y'all don't mind running a little late, because it's going to be dark by the time they start showing the movie. Well, we've seen the movie and we better call it a night because it is getting dark, darker and darker. So we'll head back through downtown on Main Street, and it's all lit up. But it is deserted the later it gets. And there's a great postcard that they've made for a nighttime in Greenville with the News Piedmont clock lit up. And as we work our way back over to Furman, and the lights are going out at Serene Stadium, and there's the bell tower. Well, we'll make it back to the bell tower. And gosh, I certainly appreciate y'all coming. My parents are telling me that it's time. It's my bedtime. We've made it a full day. So I certainly appreciate you going on my little drive around Greenville. I hope you've learned something. This is just a sort of a fun overview to show you some of the sites that would have been in the 50s. And we encourage you to come up to the South Carolina room and check out this new 1950s federal census. Well, it was great. And I thank you for coming, and see you around.